point out this first passage that thoughts leave not their source. This is a major premise from the Course, that these are thoughts in your mind. And when you make a judgment externally about something, you're reinforcing the thought in your mind. It's not leaving your mind, it's doubling down in your mind. And particularly, we want to be aware that when a grievance is held in your mind, it seems to be applied outward, but that grievance is actually being held in your mind. And as a result, they act like a set of shades that hide your awareness of the light within you. The light within you remains, but the grievance blocks your awareness of the light within you. So that will come up as we're reading in this session today. So we'll get into all that and more. Our session's entitled Salvation Without Compromise. Welcome to Miracles on High Plains. My name is Jonica, and our reader for this session is Susie. A few other ideas. I want to just remind you that the previous material was on the laws of chaos. And it did say that we really can't understand chaotic laws because they don't make sense. They don't operate in the realm of spiritual reason. In other words, chaotic laws make no sense to the Holy Spirit because they're not true. But they are false beliefs, confused beliefs, whereby our world promotes many of these ideas, and we wind up unconsciously adopting them and following them, kind of, so to speak, follow the crowd of common prevailing beliefs. And so we're not going to go over all of that again, but do know that the laws of chaos reinforce chaotic viewpoints. And in particular, let me draw your attention to the second law, which will apply to our reading today. It states that everybody is guilty. Everybody is flawed. Everybody is sick or unlovable. And as a result of being unlovable, is of no true value. And for their mistakes, they deserve to be judged and held guilty and punished. This is the law of chaos, that for inherently their unlovable nature deserves punishment. It's the second law of chaos. Now let's see where follow that law, and it has many implications and many forms. It doesn't always come out in this explicit statement, but it basically is a devaluing of another soul. And so it said in the previous section something very surprising, that outside of heaven, there is no life. That life, we'll call it divine life, is what God created. And outside of divine life, there is no life. We're not talking about biological life. We're talking about eternal life. This is an abstract concept because it's not life as we know it, because a scientist would say even a fly has life because it eats and breathes and reproduces and does those things that biological life is said. What we're saying is here is that divine life is only what God created, and therefore anything apart from heaven is not really life, it's an illusion. It may seem Now, we're talking about in a state of chaotic mind, egoic, fearful mind, it may seem like life, or at worst, it may seem like death. This concept here of biologically I'm alive, but I feel like I'm empty and meaningless and worthless and unloved and guilty and despairing, depressed. I give up. It feels like I'm dead inside. That concept will be talked about today. And finally, one more principle, which was originally underscored especially by Aristotle back in the 4th century BCE, and that is that statements are either true or they are false. There's no middle ground where something is a little true, but not really true. It's called law of the excluded middle. And of Course in Miracles reinforces this principle. It's only the truth is true. What is false is false. And if it's not true, it must be false. So these introductory remarks here all will go into hopefully helping you, give you the apparatus to understand what Susie is about to read.
Is it not true you do not recognize some of the forms attack can take? If it is true, attack in any form will hurt you and will do so just as much as in another form that you do not recognize. Then it must follow that you do not always recognize the source of pain. Attack in any form is equally destructive. Its purpose does not change. Its sole intent is murder. And what form of murder serves to cover the massive guilt and frantic fear of punishment the murderer must feel? He may deny he is a murderer and justify his savagery with smiles as he attacks. Yet he will suffer and will look on his intent in nightmares where the smiles are gone and where the purpose rises to meet his horrified awareness and pursue him still. For no one thinks of murder and escapes the guilt the thought entails. If the intent is death, what matter the form it takes?
Okay, I struggled a lot when I first read this until I went back to the previous section and recalled some of the ideas that we read. So let's go over this. First of all, we're talking about their attack, and it matters not the form of the attack. We're not concerned about the detailed, transitory form that an attack takes. So any form of lovelessness, regardless of how it appears or how it's expressed, is loveless and therefore an attack. So that's and it goes on to say that I'll use first person here. If I engage in any form of attack, I'm not really aware of the pain that I'm causing myself. Remember, we said grievances will blind one to their inner light. And so now I've separated my consciousness from my inner light by attacking someone, regardless of the form that it takes. So I'm in pain because I judged another and deemed them to not be worth my love. It's really nice to express this in terms of love, to think another person is unlovable. Now, we can express it more powerfully, like they're a sinner or they're worthless or unworthy. But really, it's to withhold one's love, to withhold a blessing, and to think another person is simply not worth your time or attention. Okay, so many different forms of attack, but the one who engages in the attack is the one that's introducing a painful experience in oneself. And the purpose there doesn't change. It's always destructive, it's always blocking the light. And here's where the line comes in that's very hard to accept. Its sole intent is murder. And what form of the form of murder serves to cover the guilt and fear and punishment that the murderer must feel. So we need to back up and say we're not exclusively talking about where one robs another person of their life. It's a dead body. That would be the classic meaning of murder. But we're talking about the use of murder in a more abstract sense of what one's soul's view towards another person. This is an attitude of the ego towards another person, and it's to deny their light, deny their lovability, to deny them a blessing and peace, and to dismiss them. We'll call that a form of murder. We're, if we go back to what we said a few moments ago, it's about robbing them of heaven. Any state apart from heaven is at best seems like life, but at worst, a state apart from heaven seems like death. Well, death and murder, aren't we talking the same thing here? So, in a non biological manner, in the manner of a mind that's following the laws of chaos, anytime we view another person not in the light, not with love, not with blessing and peace, we're denying their right to heaven. And what we don't recognize, go back up to the first few statements, what we do not recognize is that it will hurt the person who does this, for their mind is the one that's introducing the judgment. I don't want to be bothered with that person, or worse. Okay, so and thus I now carry around. I say I mean I'm using myself as the prototypical ego here. I'm now carrying around this ball of guilt that I hold towards the other person, and that prohibits me from being aware of my own inner light. So that's a lot to take in what we just said. We've only got 6 paragraphs here. So this first one is necessary to get your bearings on. Otherwise, every time they use the word murder and death, you're going to think of things that you see on the evening news when something unfortunate happens in the physical form. What we mean here is to deny in your mind heaven to another person. Another way of saying that is rather than blessing them, you just dismiss them. That's a form of murder. It's a form of condemnation and judgment that would leave another person in your mind, in chaotic mind, as being unlovable. Okay, I'm going to go on unless there's comments or questions on that. I know that this is a lot to take in. It'll make sense later on.
Jonica, I mean, I maybe I don't know why you think it's so difficult to take on. I really don't. I mean, maybe because I've been really, studying this a lot lately. Like anything that's not love, kindness, you know, peaceful, any agitation of mine is a form of murder. I don't know. I guess I've been reading the course for a while that these murder and heaven and these words don't have any meaning for me, like in the world.
Right.
The meaning for me comes from the courses, meaning they're just, I don't know if they're a metaphor, I have no idea, but I don't even, yeah, I don't know. I think it's pretty understandable. I'm
Yeah.
just telling you
So
that
I'm
so
I'm
maybe for
speaking broadly to
yeah,
I'm speaking not only to the people in this call, but anybody that might be listening.
right. Oh, okay. And I love the first line because if you it is true you do not recognize some of the forms, attack, and we'll say like, oh, that wasn't an attack. Oh, yes, it was. Anyway, I think it's a great paragraph.
Great. I'm glad you like it. So we'll go on from there.
Is death in any form, however lovely and charitable it may seem to be, a blessing and a sign the voice for God speaks through you to your brother? The wrapping does not make the gift you give. An empty box, however beautiful and gently given, still contains nothing, and neither the receiver nor the giver is long deceived. Withhold forgiveness from your brother, and you attack him. You give him nothing and receive of him but what you gave.
Mhm. So you can tell it's consistent with the meaning that we discussed in the previous paragraph. Death in any form, well, biological death really only has one form. We could talk about the heart stopping, but we know you can restart a heart. But once a person is brain dead, as far as I understand, that mean the brain starts to, I think the word is necrotic, becomes necrotic through lack of oxygen really quick, within minutes. So biological death really only has one form. It means you're not coming back physically. But the death as we mean it here in the broader sense has many forms, even forms that may appear lovely and charitable. Now, this is very surprising. A lovely and charitable form of death that may seem to be a blessing, that is wrapped in attractive packaging, but is in fact an empty gesture, a beautiful package that contains nothing. And so if I try to peer, what are they saying here? They're saying the deeper intention towards another person is what really matters, not the outward presentation. Um, I'll reference a song from many years ago. It's, I think it goes something like, they smile in your face all the while. They seem to take your place. The backstabbers. Backstabbers? So the smiling in your face, the outer appearances are pleasant and appear to be a blessing, but the gesture is empty because it contains a form of deception. The receiver, the giver is a form of deception here. And Then, in the very next sentence, they talk about withholding forgiveness from your brother. Anytime you withhold forgiveness from a brother, you are attacking them. You're basically giving them nothing. And that is a death wish towards someone.
Salvation is no compromise of any kind. To compromise is to accept but part of what you want, to take a little and give up the rest. Salvation gives up nothing. It is complete for everyone. Let the idea of compromise but enter, and the awareness of salvation's purpose is lost because it is not recognized. It is denied where compromise has been accepted. For compromise is the belief salvation is impossible. It would maintain you can attack a little, love a little, and know the difference. Thus it would teach a little of the same can still be different, and yet the same remain intact as one. Does this make any sense? Can it be understood?
No, no, that's the laws of chaos maintain that you can love a little and hate a little. You, I think there's songs about that as well. I won't try to render them. Um, so this is true. Compromise is some kind of middle ground. Take a little and give a little. It's the opposite of the Holy Spirit's law to have give all to all without expectation of taking return. So the ego is a taker. It wants to take all that it can get. And so this is applied to the idea of salvation, which for our purposes we'll describe as being in a state of heaven, of holding the light, of operating according to the laws of forgiveness and healing, and to be clear as to one's purpose is to forgive and heal. I have a function God would have me fulfill. That would be a state of salvation. And what they're making very clear is in a state of salvation, there's no middle ground. There's no half truth here. It's either true or it's not true. And I'll refer you back to what we said during our introductory remarks. Aristotle's law of the excluded middle. It's either true or it's false. There's no half truths that are sometimes true and other times false. Although the ego would try to get you to believe there are half truths. And there's one more point in this paragraph that is very subtle. The ego would maintain you can attack a little, love a little, and know the difference between your love and your attack. So let's reverse that statement in terms of truth. If you attack a little and attempt to love a little, you will fail to know the difference and wind up attacking those whom you love. This happens all the time. Domestic violence would be a category of attacking the people that live in your own household. This would be supposedly people that are closest to you and being confused about how to relate yourself to them. All right. And so the bigger lesson using course language here is to recognize what is the same as and what is different. That's what the Holy Spirit's trying to teach us that all love is the same, but love is different from attack. And that if you are to know the difference, you must recognize there's an excluded middle. It's either true or it's false. Salvation has no middle ground. You bless a person sometimes when they behave in ways perhaps you find agreeable, but you don't withhold your blessing when they behave in ways in that you don't agree with. All kinds of examples come up here. I would venture to say this happens every week of your life. You're confronted with situations that can be seen through this lens.
This course is easy just because it makes no compromise. Yet it seems difficult to those who still believe that compromise is possible. They do not see that, if it is, salvation is attack. Yet it is certain the belief that salvation is impossible cannot uphold a quiet, calm assurance it has come. Forgiveness cannot be withheld a little, nor is it possible to attack for this and love for that and understand forgiveness. Would you not want to recognize assault upon your peace in any form, if only thus does it become impossible that you lose sight of it? It can be kept shining before your vision, forever clear and never out of sight, if you defend it not.
Mm-hmm. Paul, I saw your hand go up right away. Go ahead. You're muted.
Yeah, thank you, Jonica. I had a situation that came up yesterday with my son. He was backing out of the garage and he hit the fender of his car and knocked out the front light. So my initial reaction was, I'm going to wrap this package with a nice, I'm so sorry that that happened. But the empty package was, I was still upset. I was still kind of disturbed by it. When I read through this next section here, because this really, I came under conviction when it said, forgiveness cannot be withheld a little. And this is where the compromise comes in for me, because if you could tell me what would be the purest form of forgiveness here, would I completely forget what he did and see him in God's light in terms of the light that shines within him and just completely forget about the other stuff?
I think that comes pretty close. I would convey it this way, Paul. This is your son. If you think in terms of the love raining down from heaven on us all, and all the love that you've experienced for your son, he for you, and the things that really matter. Where does a broken headlight fit into that? And real quick, it becomes diminished, and the Holy Spirit would put it into the category of nothing important. It's like just a very brief little inconvenience on the world, but has no lasting meaning whatsoever. And so, yeah, you're probably going to get the headlight fixed. That's so be it. So it would just be to rise above. This is the next section, to rise above the struggle between right and wrong and see it in terms of what really matters in life. And this won't really have any significance at all.
And thank you, Jonica. I really appreciate that. That's very helpful. In some ways, I know I don't want to take up more time on this, but in some ways, he's learning more from this than I am. Meaning that the fact that his car is now inoperable is he's inconvenienced, and so maybe there's something for him that he's getting out of this that is more important than my inconvenience here. So, but thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. That's a really good insight you had about him learning more from this. And there's so many in parenting, there's so many lessons of how sometimes we need to let our children struggle with life through things. That's how they're going to learn rather than we rush in and do things for them. And so this is all in the journey of living and growing, and so that's really wise for you to view it through that lens, Paul. We've got a bunch of comments. Kim, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I think there's a difference between upset and unforgiveness, because sometimes I can be upset, but I'm not in unforgiveness. And so it just may take me a minute. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I give myself permission in times like that just to kind of process it. Once I process it, it's pretty easy to kind of like move on. But sometimes it can just be upset that has nothing to do with unforgiveness. Now that's for me.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay, fair enough. Susie, I had a comment for you as well, but go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say that I always use that lesson. I don't know what anything is for. And so there's a lesson and a blessing in everything. And I might not know what it is yet. So I love that, Paul, and I won't go into my situation with my children, but yeah, that helps me with everything, everything. Anything that my mind perceives negative that's happening in this world of time and space, because really none of it really matters. It's all, anyway, I don't know what anything is for.
Only the love matters.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Susie. That's helpful. So I can't let go this statement here because this has come up so many times over the years with so many people. The statement is that this course is easy because it's very clear. There's no compromise. Yet the course seems difficult as long as you still believe compromise is possible. And I wanted to give Susie a chance because for many years, she would introduce her remarks by saying, this is so difficult. And because she was in her learning journey the first few years. And what I wanted to ask you, Susie, do you think this course is difficult?
No, I mean, we've had this conversation. It's just different.
It's different. Right.
And it says it a couple times somewhere in the text. It really is very simple. It's just different to the habitual thinking of our minds in this world. And it's decades for me of thinking a certain way and the miracle is a change in my thinking. So it's just different. It is not difficult. This is a great line.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's really hysterical, Jonica, that I read that I was reading today and had that sentence or two.
Right. Right. And I would say, look at the miracle. So let's say many decades, however many it is, of thinking one way, and then 4 years later, 6 now, thinking another way. Wow, that's a rapid change, really short in compared to one's lifetime. So, no compromises. As Paul pointed out, forgiveness cannot be withheld a little. And this becomes really part of the theme going forward, is as a miracle messenger, the little things that just disturb you a little become increasingly the focus of what needs to be undone. It's the reactions of upset and anger. And so we'll build on this theme later on. But again, there's no such thing as partial forgiveness. It's either forgiven or not.
Those who believe that peace can be defended and that attack is justified on its behalf cannot perceive it lies within them. How could they know? Could they accept forgiveness side by side with the belief that murder takes some forms by which their peace is saved? Would they be willing to accept the fact their savage purpose is directly against themselves? No one unites with enemies, nor is at one with them in purpose, and no one compromises with an enemy, but hates him still for what he kept from him.
I think this is really clear at the end, these last two statements. No one unites with enemies, nor can you be at one with an enemy in purpose, one in purpose with an enemy. And so it speaks to the broader way of how do we regard our relationship with another. It's either regarded as a holy relationship wherein forgiveness is easy, or it's not. And if it's not regarded as a holy relationship, we would say it's been absent to your awareness, forgotten, and into that vacuum comes rushing other teachings from the past, teachings of another person being a stranger or unimportant to you, or however it's phrased. It's either there's no middle ground. And other people have stated this idea of the excluded middle makes the course sets a very high bar, because you can't practice 3/4 forgiveness or even 95% forgiveness, because the 5% that's unforgiveness is guilt and judgment, and that serves as a barrier. Although it seems that way to the ego mind, that you can half forgive someone, partially forgive them. That's the illusion of forgiveness, which is covered in some of the supplements. It's called forgiveness to deceive. Again, using the metaphor earlier, the package looks nice. They smile at your face. All the while, they seek to take your place, the backstabbers. So it's an appearance of blessing, but its intent and its purpose is not true.
Mistake not truce for peace, nor compromise for the escape from conflict. To be released from conflict means that it is over. The door is open. You have left the battleground. You have not lingered there in cowering hope that it will not return because the guns are stilled an instant, and the fear that haunts the place of death is not apparent. There is no safety in battleground. You can look down on it in safety from above and not be touched. But from within it, you can find no safety. Not one tree left still standing will shelter you. Not one illusion of protection stands against the faith in murder. Here stands the body, torn between the natural desire to communicate and the unnatural intent to murder and to die. Think you the form that murder takes can offer safety? Can guilt be absent from a battlefield?
Mhm. This paragraph, there's several references to battlefield. The next section is entirely about the battlefield. So this paragraph serves as a foreshadow or a pre-echo of what is in the next section. We're not going to be able to completely explore the battlefield metaphor here, for it's covered in the next section. But know that the battlefield occurs in the mind if you choose to enter into that conflict. And the invitation here is to rise above the battlefield and not enter into the conflict. This requires mind training because, as you probably noticed, there's a tendency when someone does something that you find out of character or objectionable within your norms that you're accustomed to, for your mind to immediately respond and identify that and want to judge the other person, maybe even to tell them how wrong they are, and thus engage in the battle. And so what it says, what we are encouraged to do is to leave the battleground and not try to find peace or truth or forgiveness on the battlefield. That's not the source of peace, truth, or forgiveness. There's another place to find peace, truth, and forgiveness, and how to access that higher ground. It says you can look down on the battle and safety from above and not be touched. This is what we will be exploring in the next section. The ability for you to shift perception from battlefield conflicts into rising above that and perceiving nothing as nothing, perceiving if it's a broken headlight, to perceive that as not a threat to one's love, not a threat to one's understanding and sense of shared purpose, that these things don't make any difference in terms of holy relationship. So there's much to be learned as we go forward here. David, you had your hand up.
Thank you. I keep talking about the next section, and I like to read ahead, and just wanted to say the next section is awesome. And if everyone has a chance, they should read it before tomorrow's meeting. But I'm going to give you a little teaser here, because it's just the solution. And it's forget not that the motivation for this course is the attainment and the keeping of the state of peace. Given this state, the mind is quiet, and the condition in which God is remembered is attained. And I just love that, because it's the answer for me, is to be still and quiet so that I can listen to his instructions. But still, I just wanted to emphasize that that's very, very helpful for me. I can only access the light when I'm still and quiet. Thank you.
Yeah, no, very, very helpful, David. Thank you. So I have a home assignment for you. Call it a home assignment, but a practice. And it's described right here on this paragraph. And it's something that, as David indicated, it's something that you do in your own still and quiet moments. And that is to close your eyes and picture yourself high up on a hill, looking down on the chaos of life in the world and not being caught up in those details, but being grateful to be in peace up on the holy mount, the holy hill, to find yourself in a different place. It's in your mind, but it may be helpful for you to picture it as if it was actually a hill and looking down, and to realize that your peace always lies up on that holy mount. It's the inner peace that you carry with you at all times. And so it says here, you can look down on the battlefield safely from above and not be touched within it. And so practice that on your own in your quiet time. You cannot fail. You cannot fail to gain access to that state of inner peace. And the reason why we practice this is because somewhere in the next month or two, something will happen in your life that will be unexpected or undesired, and someone might be available for you to blame, hold accountable, and thus be invited to enter into conflict, at least in your mind, with them. And this is an exercise in not engaging in the battle, not jumping in, but being able to find yourself in the holy mount where you are safe from above and untouched from the conflict. This is a part of your mind training. And so anybody that, when we come back next time, that cares to share their experience would be welcome to do so. That is as far as we are going to read today, but clearly we've prepared you for the next section above the battleground, which is the application of all that we've just mentioned. There's so much to gain from this course. It really is simple in that there are no compromises. It's very different than what the world teaches, but it's very clear-cut and simple course to understand. And I'm grateful that we can get together in these formats and share in this journey. Thank you all. Susie, thank you for stepping in, reading, and many blessings to each and every one of you. Namaste.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Monica.
Yes.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
See you
you.
tomorrow. Bye.
Thank you,
Bye.
Jonathan.
Now.
Peace and love.